This shotgun is totally weird, unless you're familiar with how slug rounds work. In that case, it provides a completely new playstyle for the heavy class. And I'm gonna keep this short, but it's worth mentioning that this is my favorite Season 2 gun, because the Beretta and the FAMAS are underperforming despite what other YouTubers try to pass as sensational. To be completely honest, the KS-23 is not on par with existing weapons as well, but is by far the best weapon added in Season 2 because the heavy class didn't have access to such a playstyle, and this playstyle is derived from a real-world gunfight tactic called Turkey Peek. A Turkey Peek is when you peek from behind cover long enough to fire a shot and get back to cover. Sounds simple, everyone has definitely done it by instinct, but here is why the KS-23 is so good at this. It does solid damage at a range. Because of it firing a single slug shot instead of multiple pellets, it actually does reliable damage at way farther distances, with the maximum being 120 per hit at close to medium ranges. It also travels as a projectile, which makes it the first non-explosive gun in the finals to fire projectiles, since everything else is hit scan. Now, this can be a downside in many situations, but when defending, controlling a point, or otherwise holding your position, it means you can pre-fire more efficiently, since if the enemy is farther away, by the time he can react, you're back to cover. Just a reminder that if you like the video, I'd appreciate it if you express it by bumping the like button, and you should subscribe to follow me through braving the YouTube jungle. Obviously, you should pair this gun with the shields, barricades, or even goo to provide more obstructions between you and your enemies. But when you wanna get more offensive, I have found that using the charge spec works pretty well too. The shotgun is pretty good in close ranges, as it allows you to finish off a light with one shot and one melee, 2 shots and a melee for mediums, which puts you at a bit of a disadvantage, but your large health pool more than makes up for it in a 1v1. What's better though is you can do reliable damage to these roof thugs that keep picking on you from afar, doing so in quick peeks without exposing yourself for too much time, like what is the case for the Lewis gun, which is traditionally your best option. Nonetheless, you can't blindly keep on pushing to play with this weapon at all times, since situations change, just like me getting bullied by these snipers here. So I had to go and switch to a more efficient way of dealing with them. And just like so, I remembered I recently made a sniping guide for y'all, and needless to say, I couldn't just accept getting killed by a bunch of snipers, so I ended up doing some human resources work for their team. Overall, the KS-23 is kinda like the medium shotgun, except it doesn't really shoot pellets and does more damage, although the projectile nature of the slug and its slower rate of fire balance things out. That being said, I feel like it should get a slight damage buff to like at least 2-shot mediums without the need of melee, or get a headshot multiplier, which honestly I don't know why it doesn't have, since it's not a pellet shotgun, it just fires a large bullet. And yes, I'm aware that the heavy has access to better weapons in terms of pure TTK, but this shotgun provides a different game style and will be either loved by those who use it or hated by those who don't, at least in the state it is right now. On that note, the other 2 new weapons, the Beretta and the FAMAS, are purely outclassed by the silenced pistol and the AK or FCAR respectively, without providing any other advantage whatsoever. In fact, the burst fire gameplay will be seen by many as a disadvantage, which leads me to believe that we are days away from a balanced patch, and hopefully the devs are gonna see to it that the weapons get the proper buffs. For now, it is a niche weapon, much like the throwing knives, in terms of TTK on paper. There are better options, but if you take into account the learning curve and high skill ceiling, this weapon can overperform in the right hands, and I'm sure if you put enough time in it, you're gonna start seeing this the way I do. The KS-23 is a great gun.